Good morning, friends. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. And let's wake up the football gods here on this Aftermath Monday. We now have our Super Bowl teams in place. The Los Angeles Rams looking like they've come up aces with all of the offseason moves that they've made, bringing in Matthew Stafford and getting Von Miller and getting guys like Jalen Ramsey and Odell Beckham Jr. This hodgepodge group of guys have come together and done just enough to make it to the Super Bowl in their home stadium. And then on the other side, Joe Burrow. Wow. Joe Burrow and crew being the first team going to the Super Bowl. Cinderella story. Congratulations to both of those. And in 13 days from now, we'll be crowning a new Super Bowl champion. At least we'll have some new blood. At least we've moved on from Tom Brady, who we still don't know if he is in fact retiring or not retiring. Yesterday, we, of course, live streamed the game. We had a ball, of course, just being able to hang out with all you great fans as well as all the haters that love to come in and try and see if they can get a reaction out of me, which is cool. That's cool, and deservedly so. Our Dallas Cowboys, unfortunately, it's been 26 years since we've been to the Super Bowl, and it doesn't get any easier. We have so many self-inflicted wounds that it's crazy. At least with the Cowboys restructuring Dak Prescott's contract, getting that in the works, they're beginning the process of figuring out how to get below the salary cap because they're right now about $21 million over it and start figuring out who is going to be here. The thing that was interesting yesterday during the live stream was people kept coming back and saying that Mike Fisher reported or clarified the situation of Jerry Jones being upset with Amari Cooper, that it wasn't directed towards Amari Cooper, that it was really more about Kellen Moore. That may be the case. I don't know. I didn't see the piece from Mike Fisher or anything. I'm going by what you guys said. But here's where the problem is, and sometimes people will, not want to say something about somebody that they're close to and so on. They would rather go ahead and throw somebody else under the bus. But if that's what Jerry Jones was doing with Kellen Moore, beating around the bush, that was awful. That was just the wrong ways to go about it, because here's the way everybody took it, and it hasn't been clarified except by, I guess, Mike Fisher. If you Google Jerry Jones upset with Amari Cooper, all you see is Cowboys owner Jerry Jones frustrated with Amari Cooper. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones expresses frustration with wide receiver. Jerry Jones expresses, here it is, from the NFL.com to CBS Sports, from Fanside, Pro Football Rumors, The Spun, SI, Law Nation, ESPN on YouTube, Mark Holmes on, that's me. Everywhere you went, it was just like, is this the end of Amari Cooper in Dallas? Jerry Jones, he's pissed at Amari Cooper. If it's really that it was about Kellen Moore, you have now kind of made, at least, I don't know, maybe you've talked to Amari Cooper or something. You haven't exactly kept a relationship that's great. And here, just this morning, article, who wrote this? Pro Football, what? I'm not sure who the article is by. Amari Cooper, contracts Cowboys must consider cutting in the 2022 season. So when you go down, of course, the number one guy they have is Amari Cooper. Jones did not sound happy with Amari Cooper's ability to dictate coverage during the playoff loss to San Francisco 49ers. Amari should take half the field with him when he runs a route. A whole bunch of that defense ought to honor Cooper, he said to the Athletic Journal. This is why the Cowboys should consider cutting him. Okay, and that goes on with the story. I'm trying to understand where the words of Jerry Jones saying that Amari Cooper should take half the field when he runs a route, how that's directed with Kellen Moore with any certainty. That one is kind of like, I didn't hear Kellen Moore's name mentioned in that go-round. That seemed to be all about Amari Cooper. And we also understand how Jerry Jones felt about Amari Cooper a couple of months before when he got COVID. Now, like I said, maybe that is the case that he is more pissed off at Kellen Moore. Then to me, you should direct it more at Kellen Moore and say, Kellen Moore, we need more than what we got. Here's our problems with it. Because if you were trying to send a message to Kellen Moore via Amari Cooper, a guy who you could arguably say checked out with the Raiders because of the dysfunctional nature of the team and the organization and the situations, you're setting it up for it to be the same way here with Amari Cooper. Didn't turn on the right camera. I left the camera. So I'm just mystified on, let's try it again. Mystified on that. And in fact, here, broke-ass media. Hold on. There we go. Broke-ass media at its finest. I'm mystified why you're beating around the bush with your coach. You certainly put Mike McCarthy in the crosshairs. Why couldn't you put Kellen Moore in the crosshairs as well? I know we thought of him as the next Jason Garrett, you know, the next prodigal son that was destined to be the head coach of the Cowboys. It seems like that's shifted towards Dan Quinn being the guy. And this is one of those things that you look at, and when we see the 26 years of the Dallas Cowboys, where Jerry Jones interjects himself with his feelings from Jalen Smith being a cornerstone piece of the franchise, when all of us can see Jalen Smith had deficits that weren't going to help us, and then proceed to say, we're not going to go ahead and cut him before the deadline and eat $10 million. Herein lies the real problem with the Cowboys. Inside those walls, it's a mess with different messages being sent out there that are literally destroying the Cowboys. I don't know how else to put it, but if you are flustered with a coach, go to the coach. Don't go through a player and ruin their psyche and still have the problem of the coach. So that's where we are here with the Cowboys. Some news, too. Now that the Super Bowl teams have been announced, Cooper Kupp, of course, will be playing in the Super Bowl, and Amari Cooper won't. So Amari Cooper has been named to the Pro Bowl, so shout out to him. You get to play in that great game next week. So let's check out. Let me eat some crow, because I have not been a Matthew Stafford fan. Congratulations to Matthew Stafford as well as the Rams, that arrogant bunch of people. I'm sure I'll be hearing from Ramalama. Let's see what they have to say about Matthew Stafford and crew.
The Matt Stafford redemption story has been told about how much this was about him. RC, I want to bring up another name. Odell Beckham Jr. has waited his entire life to get in that game, and while we didn't see a lot of him in the highlight, he had a huge night and played a huge role in this.
Listen, every week Odell Beckham Jr. got better, and he understood that Cooper Kupp was on a chase for history and that he would have to find his spots and continue to gain the trust of Matthew Stafford. We talked a few times throughout the playoffs, and he was like, RC, I'm telling you, I'm the best Odell I've ever been. I'm bigger, I'm faster, I'm stronger, I'm quicker. I'm
He actually looked
plays. I'm going to help this team win. And he just kept telling me, I just want to win. And every time we discussed anything, we talked about the team that he was about to play, how he was feeling. It was the same thing. I just want to win. And I believe that's always been him. And I'm going to take it away from the field for a second. Odell Beckham Jr. gets the rap of being whatever it is people want to perceive him as. As Deebo Samuel is on the sideline crying, which he deserved to do because he put this team on his back the entire year. I know what those celebrations are like. Teddy knows what those celebrations are like. For Odell Beckham Jr. to be talked about in the way he was talked about, to be jettisoned from New York, to be cut from Cleveland, and to now do what he did in the NFC Championship and find time to walk over to Deebo Samuel, show him love, show him compassion, and understand what he was going through, tells you what type of person Odell Beckham Jr. is. So stop with all the narratives that he's a locker room killer and teammates hate him and he's a bad dude. No, what he is an elite talent. He's an elite talent that found a way to fit in when the other wide receiver was the true number one of that team at least. Never complained, continue to work, make huge plays throughout the playoffs and in the NFC Championship, and now get the credit that he deserves as a great player, as a great teammate, and as someone who can make a team better and not make it about himself. There are huge redemption stories on the Los Angeles Rams. I don't believe any bigger than Odell Beckham Jr.
I would actually second that thought. And this is a team that they brought in all these big stars. But in the end, when they needed it most, it was the one who was homegrown, Aaron Donald, who gathered his teammates around him, Rex. And from that moment forward, the defense was ridiculous.
No, absolutely. And how many times you see a guy go over to the sideline and he'll talk? Yeah. And then guess what? He doesn't back it up. Aaron Donald backed it up. And he challenged everybody. He goes, you know what? You're supposed to be the best outside rusher. Be the best. I'm going to be the best interior rusher the game's ever seen. Yep. You be the best defender. And he challenged his teammates, and guess what? They stepped up. But nobody steps up more than Aaron Donald, and he does it every single game, and it doesn't show up on the stats. All you analytics guys that don't know anything, it doesn't show up in the stats. He forces every single play. You got to account for this man, and that defense is why they won. I like the victory lap you did, but without this defense, they don't win that game.
And that said, Dan, I wanted to give you a moment to catch your breath, and now give you a moment to share your thoughts. The Rams are going. That's your guy, Stafford. The defense played a huge role. Beckham played a huge role. But Matt Stafford played a long time in Detroit and could only dream about this moment. He's going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Greeny, going down 17-7 was the best thing that happened to this football team. And when it happened, I sent a text in our group text, and I said the Rams are going to win this football game. Because Matthew Stafford is at his absolute best when he has no other choice but to be. And that's what happens when they went down in the fourth quarter. He spent 12 years having these moments in Detroit, and when they needed it, it just didn't matter the way it did yesterday. He's been preparing for that moment for a dozen years. 366 days ago, Greeny, you asked me on television, because the trade was yesterday, 1 year ago. You said, what does Matthew Stafford bring this football team, or how is this offense going to be different than it was under Jared Goff? And I told you two things. He's going to be able to throw them to wins when they don't have the run game. They didn't have the run game yesterday. He had to throw them to wins. And then I told you on third down, you can play drop back football, and he is good enough. Yesterday on third down, the anticipation and the accuracy and ball placement that he had to Cooper Kupp and to RC's point, Odell
that almost game-ending
If
interception that should have been.
The elite player on third down yesterday, they lose the game. That's why they traded for him, and I'm so glad because
you can tell he was his teammate.
Yesterday morning from people, and they said, what do you think we're going to get? And I thought, and I responded, America is going to see the best version of Matthew Stafford tonight, and I think they got that.
Real quick, Rex.
Well, I think America saw the best defense that defense could be. They held this team to 50 yards rushing. The San Francisco 49ers, 50 yards rushing. Of course, you take that and you'd say that the Rams would win that game.
It's a great. We will talk much more about the Niners side of this and the coach and the quarterback and everything else. Everyone from the Rams had a great day, except for the guy who advises the coach about challenges. That guy we need to have a word with.
There you go. And if there's anything we learned yesterday is defense still matters, because the Cincinnati Bengals, as much as you guys want to put out there, Joe Burrow is the greatest thing since Joe Montana, you have to understand that their defense, the second half, held Pat Mahomes to 55 yards passing. 55 yards passing. Yeah, he got him a score late that got him into the overtime, but in the end, it wasn't enough. And the same can be said about the Rams defense that shut down San Francisco's running game. And that all goes back to what I'm talking about, the man in the middle, that guy who can literally blow up a pocket and keep teams from being able to run on you. Until the Cowboys do that, I don't see this being us going to a Super Bowl anytime soon. But you know what? It is what it is. Congratulations to both teams. I'm Mark Holmes, and, well, I got to get to the workshop because I got stuff I got to make for you guys. And, of course, I'm fasting today, so I got the black coffee. So there's that. You know how we roll. We'll see you later. Peace.
Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe for the Sports Report.
And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys? Yeah!